Just have to make sure it's.
They started in 1988, and they were university students at that time. And Bonnie really wanted me to meet them and wanted to show the work that they were doing. And Child Haven in 2000 had already been supporting them for maybe 4 or 5 years. I was completely blown away. Here were people that were on the front lines of social work in their community in a third world country. They were giving legal advice. They were going to court for women against the husbands that battered them. They were providing counseling as well as a shelter for the children and the women. And I was amazed. 2 years later, I meet Tara. She came here to Canada, and I was one of the first friends that she made, and from that was the CNSP group and this Nepali Gala, which is now celebrating its 10th year. I want to share with you a report which Renew sent to us last week, and it is her report of the past year. If you've been listening to CBC television or radio this week or reading the newspapers, you'll know that they reminded us that this week was the 1-year anniversary of the earthquake of April 25th, a 7.8 earthquake followed by many powerful aftershocks. Oh, sorry, thank you, Mary. Followed by many aftershocks, landslides, and then another earthquake of 7.3 on May the 12th of 2015. It hit in the mountains between the capital city of Kathmandu and the tourist town of Pokhara. Over 9,000 people were killed, 23,000 were injured, 500,000 were left homeless, villages were flattened, roads and transportation was ripped apart.
Is that a light on your arm? You're flashing the projector.
Yes. But I have to do it.
You can hear the screen.
It's okay. There was no electricity, no drinking water, no milk for children, and food shortages. Thousands of people gathered in open areas in makeshift tents, in camps. They had no proper toilets, they had no sanitation and no clean water. And the hospital system in Kathmandu was overburdened with injured people. Doctors were forced to treat patients in the streets due to hospital evacuations. All these photos were taken by Renee and the members of the Women's Foundation as they were working on the front lines. This is how the Women's Foundation was affected. They lost members, there were staff and children who were injured, homes were lost, structural damage. Although the office in Kathmandu, including the women's shelter home, remained standing, the collapse of the boundary fence around the shelter left the women and the children unprotected. Also, half of the daycare center buildings were structurally damaged, forcing them to close them for nearly 2 months. The collapse of the organic farm building, which killed 3,000 chickens, caused hardship. It took 6 months to raise those chickens, and they were the source of food for the shelter and also a source of income. Because of the damage to the production center, the organic farm, the daycare center, the Women's Foundation have lost a lot of their regular income. This continues even today to limit their ability to maintain their regular projects, their shelter homes, and their district offices across the country. What was the immediate action that was undertaken by the Women's Foundation? There are 7 projects that they created to meet the needs of the people. The first one was the immediate organization of emergency rescue. During the week of the emergency distribution of aid, the World Women's Foundation team met lots of people and listened to their sad and heart-wrenching stories of hardship and suffering. Those are Renee's words. One of the Women's Foundation tailors, she is here in the photograph with her 2 children who were seriously injured in a collapsed house. Their legs are now in casts, and the Women's Foundation is providing food and safety for the children and their mother in their children's shelter home. Sadia Maigar's mother and grandmother were trapped in their home and crushed. The trauma caused her father to develop mental illness, leaving no support for the remaining children. Sadia's relatives could not take on the burden of raising her. The Women's Foundation rescued Sadia and brought her to their children's shelter home. In Renew's words, and I quote, "Sadia looked scared in the beginning. Her memory of the earthquake and the death of her mother was still fresh in her mind. She would only cry, and it was very hard for her to speak. We could feel her pain from inside, which was holding her in its grips, and that was rolling down her face in the form of tears." Sadia, this is such a tragedy for you, a very traumatic period in the girl's life, losing her mother, and now she was alone. Sadia now wants to stay at the shelter home. She has started school, and she looks much happier. The picture on the right is her in her school uniform. Sadia's smiley face shows that hope has come back into her life. Number 2, the Women's Foundation opened their facilities as an emergency shelter for the people in the community of their neighborhood. All the Women's Foundation resources were deployed to help those affected in Kathmandu. There were 1,400 people who were housed and fed in their production buildings. Women and children especially suffer terrible stress, anxiety, irrational fear, and psychological trauma. The Women's Foundation provided counseling. On the 9th day, 1,225 people had been fed rice and dal and curries. One good meal a day keeps people from starvation, and the Women's Foundation provided that. The lumber that was collected from the rubble became the firewood for their cooking fires. Number 3, emergency relief in the hardest hit areas, in the mountains, in the small villages. On the 2nd day of the earthquake, the Women's Foundation organized distribution of relief materials to 17,000 families, approximately 102,000 people in the 12 mountain districts most severely affected by the earthquake. Critical delays occurred because trucks were not available. Landslides and mud from the monsoons cut off villages in remote areas. In some cases, they needed to rent helicopters to bring aid into the villages. In Renee's own words, and I quote, "Though it was hard, challenging, and sometimes frightening, we still kept hope and faith in our hearts and kept struggling on to reach the desperate people that were waiting for us to arrive." All of the Women's Foundation staff participated. Renew is the president. She was carting 30-pound bags of rice to people. Carmela, her sister, was also carting materials, organizing things. Here we are. This picture is February 2016. And in the mountains, excessive cold and hunger still kills people. The Women's Foundation of Nepal gives them hope. And CBC confirmed, and so did the Red Cross, that those facts are true this week on the media. The registration was very efficient. There were no duplications. They wanted to make sure that every family got an equal amount. Here is Carmela, part of the organization and distribution. Number 4, pregnant women and the New Mothers Project. Renew said, during our visit to different districts, we found pregnant women, new mothers, and their babies were at particular risk, suffering from hunger, pain, and loss of their loved ones. The Women's Foundation created a project providing nutritious food, loving care, health facilities, antenatal and postnatal care, and they paid for hospital costs where pregnancy was at a risk. They are also providing shelter for mothers, and that has given them a sense of being protected and being safe. This is a personal story that was told to Renew. This is Pabrita Ray. And from her experience, these are her words that Renew recorded, and I quote, "When me and my husband came to know the Women's Foundation had a program for pregnant women and new mothers, we visited the organization. My situation was a little different from the other pregnant women because of my health. The Women's Foundation members provided great care, love, and a balanced diet and all the medical treatments before, during, and after my delivery. I had my 7-year-old daughter with me, and now I have my new baby as well, thanks to all the support and love of the Women's Foundation." These children were born in that shelter. It's now a year later. They are not forgotten. The Women's Foundation does go with medical help checking the children, and here they have new winter clothes for the past season. Health and sanitation. The Women's Foundation teams helped to build 50 makeshift camps with temporary toilets and have provided clothing and pharmaceutical products. In particular, sanitary items for women, antibiotics, water purification drops, dehydration salts, hand sanitizers, and medication. Number 6, school reconstruction. Renew said in her report, and I quote, "Here in a flow of joy and words is what one little girl shared with us," and these are the child's words. "After the big earthquake, all our school was damaged. Our library, chairs, blackboards were no more. Many of my friends lost their lives. Luckily, my family is safe, but our home also collapsed. We stay outside in an open field with empty stomachs. When you people of the Women's Foundation came to see us with relief materials, it made us feel that we had someone taking care of us in this hard time. We got a tent, warm blankets, a sack of rice, materials for the school, which were corrugated steel roofing and some furniture, school uniforms and notebooks, which was a lot for us. Our schools are rebuilding and we're going to school with a proper uniform with stationery materials. The uniforms are very important to women in Nepal. We would like to thank you from the core of our heart. Thank you so much for being family and supporting us in this hard time. and this one made me cry. We will remember this always and do our best with our studies to be a responsible citizen in the future. Here you see the corrugated iron on the roof and the walls and the children in their uniforms back in the classrooms. Here they are lining up in order to get those uniforms and books. Here they are waiting in a line for their turn to get them. And here is their headmaster talking to them all in their uniforms. So, where do we go from here? There is a rebuilding of villages going on. The Women's Foundation have constructed a new home, which is a model for villages that will be reconstructed in the 12 districts. Once funds are available in the particular village that the Women's Foundation is involved in, 69 new houses will be built, all on the example of the model house. The news said, and I quote, "Disasters such as these earthquakes brought fear, loss, and sadness, but it also brought examples of how people can stretch their hearts and become bigger and better. People we met in these villages, so racked by destruction, were all disheartened by the many losses they had suffered, but they were also living together, and most were sharing what little they had despite religious and other barriers." This is how we can help. I've come up with 6 things that I can tell you that I know about the Women's Foundation and why they are an excellent place to help in these crises and for us to donate their money. One of the things we can do is to sponsor a child. All these children's pictures are on their website. These are the children who are not sponsored yet. And as you can see, sponsorship for them includes everything they need for a year in school. For us, it's not a lot of money, but for them it goes a long, long way. Sponsorship for women. Many of the women who live at the shelter now, because of the economic problems that the Women's Foundation have, they need sponsorship also. The project of the birthing clinic and the babies clinic, that will go on for another year, but they need funds to run it. That's what the organic farm used to look like before the earthquake. All those buildings need to be reconstructed. The Women's Foundation is a grassroots organization started by 3 sisters 28 years ago. The first shelter was their home, and since then, they have built a permanent women's shelter, they have built production buildings, they have built an organic farm, they have built a school. That's a lot of accomplishments in 28 years. And they raise food and funds for district offices of the Women's Foundation all across Nepal. I think that's impressive. Secondly, they're sponsored by many different organizations. By the Ayurveda Health Home in Nepal, by Child Haven International in Canada, just outside of Ottawa, by Ein Welt Group, which means One World Group in Germany, the ISIS in Australia, the Marie Shield Verein in Germany, the Nepali Dutch Gesellschaft, also in Germany, Peel de Faz in France, Cedar Onlus in Italy, and Global Women's Project in Australia. That's a lot of foreign organizations that think this is a marvelous organization in the Women's Foundation. The Women's Foundation is actively involved in their own community, as well as having local branches all over the country. They know from practical experience what people need, and as you could tell from Renee's report, they listen, they record, they come up with an action plan, and they do something. They have participated both in short-term emergency help and also in the long-term planning for communities to rebuild. All of the donations go to the projects because there's limited overhead. The corporate office is in the news home and in that production center. And people in the community start lining up to see Renew at 4 in the morning. When I was there 4 years ago, I witnessed the long lines of people who come to tell her their problems and to have her and the Women's Foundation help to solve them. We are all part of the Women's Foundation family because we have been supporting them with this Nepali Gala for 10 years. And they become part of our family, of our outreach to the world. We are connected to every living thing on the earth, and what we do through donations does make a difference for now and for the future. At this point, there will be people distributing to you donation envelopes. The envelopes will have information that you need to fill out on the outside in order to get a tax receipt from the Unitarian Church. The actual form of your check is made out to the First Unitarian Congregation of Ottawa, or the First Unitarian Ottawa. On the memo line is where you put Nepali Gala, so the office knows where the donations are going. And following that will be your last chance to buy raffle tickets to the wonderful opportunity of a week's holiday, maybe in Europe, maybe in the Caribbean, maybe Mexico, maybe Costa Rica. It could be yours for a mere $20 an armful or 5 for 3. 3 for 5. Sorry. Okay. It's $20 for 9. Thank you. And the young people are coming to the tables. Please put one donation in one envelope. That person will get the income tax receipt. If you put a whole lot of checks in for your table, then they don't know who to send the income tax receipt to. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Somebody needs the hot.
Thank you very much, Leslie. Okay, dessert is coming out as well as chai. And then afterwards, there's going to be a little bit more dancing for you guys, and then we're going to wrap up outside to announce the
And here's the tea as well, so they can come and eat.
Just show you what's
One curry cup and one curry. Maybe
yeah, there's still time to do the silent auction.
somebody
There's still time to do the silent auction. And when the
called again?
Chia. That's the same in Nepali. Chia, English style, English style, Hindi style, Nepali chia.
Dessert's coming.
Ooh, that's hot.
That's hot. have this cheese.
Oh, yeah.
This one is a chia, Ellen chia. This one chia. This also okay.
Here's another. Okay.
Okay.
Do you want me to do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody. Okay, I'm going to.
Okay.
Otherwise, we're gonna. Okay, I'm coming. Rice together. You see ones that are the same thing, just marry them together.
Maybe to speak here all the way.
Hello, hello. 1 second.
You know what? I'm gonna give you. Thank you. Maybe we can just make that over here. Sorry. Everything from there. Maybe we can make this. Put it in there. Yeah. And then clean that up.
They're not all.
We still need
Tea?
Empty.
yeah.
Not big. Okay. Where are they? You know what? Like the tea is here, I think. You guys can just
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yes, it's
Yeah.
all here.
It's
And you want those full? Okay. This is pretty heavy, so I'm going to stop and I'll fill up another one. Where's the top?
Baik, tolong ke Agus. Oh. Eva Penny.
Maybe she has skin for.
Maybe I'll
Oh,
fill that up if that's
sure. It's
yeah, I don't
check. It's about here.
It goes on. Okay.
Perfect. Let's go.
Yeah, and then I talked to Todd. We are going to use that and tea we have to buy for them.
Get your dessert and tea done early. Don't forget to go up and check out the silent auction bids. See if you can sneak one in there. And secure your seat for the day.
Tea without milk.
Yeah, they're right there. Tea without milk.
Maybe more hot.
Just one, right?
Yeah,
Can we give all grey tea with water?
I'll go ask. Oh,
Go.
you go ask. Alright.
Yes, perfect.
Yeah, is that the... Yeah.
Can you carry this out? You have a massage?
Yeah.
Okay.
If he doesn't have muscles, he's gonna make muscles that can that.
Yeah.
You know? You yeah.
Need help?
Yeah.
Need help? We're good. Yeah. Hold on.
Oh yeah.
Right there. Hold on, you're gonna burn me.
6, eh? That's great. Thank you. You wanna come take it or?
Okay.
Maybe you can just.
That is.
It smells so good.
Is this it too? This
I don't know.
That one?
It's peppery. It's really nice.
I had a glass. Yummy.
They have to stir it for a long time. I remember last year helping them stir it.
He said they call it chia.
Tia, not tia, tia.
It depends where they're making it, but they call it the Nepalese tortilla.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, before I go, do you want to taste it?
Yeah.
Alright.
We said it's size.
You say like try some chia there.
Yeah. And he gave us 3 names depending where you were going.
Okay. Now I have to fill it up again here.
Oh, you want another half?
Do I have one of the honey balls? Do I have one of the desserts too? Okay. Oh, you got some mint. Me too. It looks so good. Thank you.
Everybody got it?
Yeah.
Everybody except me. One, just one.
Guys, help yourself.
Okay, go now. What you have got into the dinner table.
After dance, I clean.
I'll take care of you. I'll take your container after dance. I don't know what leads you up here. You don't need any more cheese. I don't have any more cheese after this. You don't need more cutlery.
I just think so.
That's a key. I'll be back in hand.